Well, we're here with Jason Flores-Williams, author of The Last Stand of Mr. America. He's been called a literary force of nature, a train wreck of a genius by the San Francisco Examiner. And he's here to talk to us about his new novel, Character and Fitness, which will be serialized on the Brooklyn Rail starting January 2011. Oh. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you.
Your novel, The Last Stand of Mr. America, was one of the defining novels of the post.com era. It was a big hit, and then you disappeared. So where have you been, and what have you been doing?
Let me see. Last Stand came out in 2001, and then the Bush administration hit. And it seemed to me like it was much more important to focus on activism during that time rather than just kind of lock myself away in a room and just write and not be engaged with what was happening on the ground in the streets in this country. So I wrote during that time, but at the same time I decided that I wanted to become seriously involved in protest. Mm. So I organized protests. I shut down Rockefeller Center in New York. I went to law school during that time so that I could sort of deepen my activism, and that was it. It was just, I feel like being a writer is fantastic, but to be a writer 110% of the time is sort of selfish, especially in this world. Mm-hmm. You have to be in dialogue and you have to be engaged with what's happening and be involved in the good fight, so that's where I was.
What were you protesting?
The war, corporatism, this government, basically the way that America is going and the loss of our liberties and the loss of our soul. I mean, let me step back for a second. I mean, I think that writing is, if you do it right, a protest against the constant loss of soul in this country if you're an American writer. And that's what you're doing as a writer. Like I said, if you're doing it right. That's one way to do it, and that's part of it. But another part is the actual physical, what you're doing with your body, the way that you are taking on society, and that requires being out there, being active, and being on the streets.
Awesome. Your new novel, Character and Fitness, describes life in the Great Recession, what we're living right now. Why did you decide to write about that, and how did you come up with the structure of your book?
Well, I lived it. I had gone down to New Orleans post-Katrina to do death penalty work as an attorney. And I was down in New Orleans, and it was very harsh, and I had left kind of a nice bougie path in New York City, a lot of friends and job opportunities to go do that. And so I go down to New Orleans, and life is hard but good and interesting, as it should be. And I come out of there, and I couldn't find a job. And so in my brain, and I write about this in the novel, in my brain I'm thinking like, well, what's going on here is like, here I am, this perceiving myself to be doing all this good stuff, and then on the other end of it I'm just screwed. There's nothing there for me on the other side of it. So I end up unemployed after doing what I perceived to be this really good thing, and it was just it was a complete trip out. And we ended up living, behind a strip mall in Philadelphia.
So it really is that autobiographical.
just completely isolated from everything after this period in New Orleans, and it just like brings forward all these questions of like, well, you think you fight the good fight, you think you do all this kind of stuff, you're going to put yourself out there and be brave and courageous, as you see it, and it was pretty cool to go down to New Orleans after Katrina and do that. And then, what is the reward for that in the world? Like existentially speaking, there is none. Maybe somewhere inside of you something changes so that you become stronger, and you get closer to your own authenticity. But here's the thing: is that your own authenticity doesn't have anything to do with happiness. Your own authenticity could lead you to be homeless on the streets because you fight the good fight and you come closer to who you think you are and the way life should be lived. In fact, probably takes you farther away from comfort and a decent, easier life in the society, because the society is so inauthentic, right? So the closer you get to like, okay, this is who I am, this is how I should be, this is how life should be lived, the farther you're going to get away from a nice life. And so Character and Fitness is about what happens to you then, and a not nice life. And so what decisions do you make in that context? That's what the book's about.
Where did you get the title, Character and Fitness?
Great question. Character and Fitness is is what you have to apply to become a lawyer. It's a board called Character and Fitness.
Really?
Yeah. You have to not only take the bar, but you have to apply to this board and submit this like kind of moral statement and show like all the times you've been arrested and all these kind of things. So in applying to Character and Fitness, in applying for the bar, I'm applying to Character and Fitness. And so I have to disclose to them, right? All the times I've been arrested for protest or just been arrested for whatever. They look, you know, you have people looking, you know, maybe Googling your name or something like that and finding out all the things you've said. And so they ask me a bunch of questions because of my past and the way I've lived. And so Character and Fitness represents for me the kind of like that barrier entryway that for all of us, that if you choose a path that is real and you say, I am going to engage in this world. I'm not going to step back and I'm not going to follow the little path here and, you know, kids, suburbs, and, you know, your little 401k thing. And meanwhile, you're kind of like either complicit or screwing everybody as you're going through life. If you decide not to do that, you're going to have our time in everything. But you decide to go that way, then you're gone. You're done. Kind of a road less traveled type of gig.
You have an exceptional command of the writer's tools. You have strong story spine. They're well developed. You have these great characters, powerful messages. How are you able to craft all of these things into one story? What is that process for you? How do you pull all of these different tools into one cohesive piece?
Basically, here's the deal. Why write unless you're going to say something? Okay? That's it. Why write if you're just going to be... Okay, writing needs to be more than entertainment. It needs to make a real comment on the world, and it needs to ennoble the people who have stood their ground. And to do that, there are a lot of things flying around out there. And to do battle with those things and to express those things and to make commentary on those things, then you need to do a lot of thinking, and you need to find simple ways to do that in your books. You can't think in books, really. Not anymore. It's not, you know, Thomas Mann, Magic Mountain or something. But you have to think in your own head ways that are simple. And the way I do that mostly, okay, this will sound really, I don't care how it sounds. If I'm not entertained, nobody's going to be entertained. Like, I like my writing. That may sound crazy, but I do. No, well, like, it's like I go back and I read my writing and I sit around and I go, wow, that's good writing. I did that, man. That's fun. That was fun writing. That's fun stuff. That it's fun to read. It has hooks. It's there. And, you know, that's on a good day. And then some days, no, it doesn't at all. It completely sucks. It takes a lot of work. I mean, like the first chapter of Character and Fitness, that wasn't easy because it's like, if you look under there's a lot of thoughts going on. They're behind the scenes. It's like, you know, this guy, the working class guy, the interactions behind Target, being in Target, where you're starting off at. I mean, it's like if you keep it open and you're sort of locked in this dialogue with this crazy society, you know, and this country and the weirdness of it all, and just like it's like flowing through you. And if you're going to say, well, I can say something about this, then damn it, you better really lock yourself in against that computer screen and make those moments count. You better make every word count, and you can't be BS-y about it. You can't muddy it up with a bunch of words. You just have to say what's there. And then there's also being a writer, of course, is being a great editor, right? Because those chapters that you read, right? At my best writing, the language is very simple. Okay, but those chapters you read, there are so many, like those lines they're coming down so much. Every word is being analyzed and cut, and then the overall flow. So it's like forest, trees, forest, going back and forth, making sure it's there. And when it works, it's great. And when it doesn't, well, you know, you miss big. And then it's like, you know, you're sitting there saying, well, this book sucks. And I've written 2 bad books. And, you know, and they're just sitting on a shelf right now laughing at me.
When did you first start writing? What inspired you to become a writer?
I always wrote from day one. Like, I remember like being having these really weird sessions, like when I was like 7 or 8 years old, where I would just like sit in the garage for hours and like write on pieces of wood. Sounds like almost like some kind of weird Faulkner thing, but it's not that at all. It's just like, it would just be really weird stuff, like writing poetry and goofing around.
It's interesting that you chose wood.
Yeah, I don't know. It was always like on wood, and I go show, and I go, look at that. When I hit like the 7th grade, I would actually ditch school to go read. And like I would go read the books I wanted to read, and then bar none, On the Road by Jack Kerouac. When I read On the Road by Jack Kerouac, that to me, the sort of the supplication, this kind of like very Jesuit approach to existence, the seeking, you know, it's kind of this mournful American prayer. to me was just it was beautiful, and I realized that there was something in that soul that that's the way I wanted to do it. So that book really inspired me to be a writer.
When would you say you first really discovered your voice as a writer?
You've got to be really brutally honest with your with what you've done. Your writing, right? With what you've done. It was really breaking out and taking a hard look at myself and getting angry with myself and saying, these books, these things that you've been writing so far, they really aren't you. So get down to what you can contribute. And I think that's really important for writers, is the idea that don't imitate anyone. Contribute your own voice and find out what that is and just go with it and take it, because that's the only way you're going to make a contribution to American literature.
So you've written several books now. What's your process for writing a book? How do you start it? Do you try to get through an entire first draft and then revise it? How many drafts? Do you have a process for yourself at this point?
No, not anymore. I used to be very strict about it. What I used to do was I would write little things about the characters and stuff like that. But not anymore. What I do, I guess the closest I get to that is that I think about it for a long time. And so I'm thinking about okay, how am I going to represent this? And then what I do is I write something about what it's going to be, kind of on a philosophical level. Like it would not be enjoyable to read it all, this thing. And the closer I can get, I can reduce that to almost one paragraph, then one line, and then almost really one word, and then no words. It's this process of just getting it down to exactly knowing what it's going to be, and then I go.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for talking with us and inspiring us, and I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. It's nice for you to come here. Cool.